My story is back in June. I was taking a little road trip down to Peoria, Illinois, and I was supposed to go by myself, but there were some other plans that God had at that time, and sending a friend along at the last minute. We got back to about 6-8 miles from Iowa City, and I was talking away, felt fine, and all of a sudden I felt like I was losing my breath a little bit, and my friend was very thankfully sitting there and said, "Take your hands off the wheel," and it was heavy traffic on I-80, of course, but we're very close to home. And we got into Mercy Hospital and they checked me all out, and eventually after a little while they said, "Yeah, you've got a tumor, brain tumor in your head, and it looks like it's, cancerous." And going through chemo and radiation was a pretty long haul, and at first, of course, it took a toll on me. It wore me down, and I was told about Greg's mission. A week or two later, I decided to go on there and look, and it was really a lot of inspirational stuff on there, some stories and about the support. So I was anxious to get a hold of him, find out, what he had to offer. And little did I know it really at first. I thought, this guy's probably in Chicago or who knows where, Kansas City or someplace, and I didn't know he was right in Coralville. From there, we've developed a friendship, and he's been very supportive, and I'm so thankful that I met Greg. We're able to go out and sit and talk openly about things, and he's also come to some of my appointments, and that's really neat because, asking the right questions is so important, and he's given me so much information, just to know what to ask and to probe a little bit and find out the best options. I'm just very thankful for that, for our friendship, and that he said to me that you can call me anytime, and that's like, wow, that's a real brother, to say that, to say you can call me anytime and just talk, or if you need support or something, that means so much to me, and it must mean a lot to other people too. Every situation is a little bit different. Tell you exactly what to do, but he's going to help you know that there's a lot of options out there. That's meant a lot to me, just to have that support, to know that I'm not on my own. If you have any doubts, and we all do at times, and we get weak and weary and wonder what's next, and to really seek out Greg's mission. And I'm thankful that I did. I'm very thankful that I did.
My father was diagnosed with glioblastoma on October 26th of 2013. He was hiking up in Big Bear, and he was having some strange symptoms that his hiker troop thought he was having a stroke, and he got airlifted over to Loma Linda Hospital, where they diagnosed him with glioblastoma. At first, we were very, upset, researching it. Obviously, everything that you research is a bad prognosis and horrible news, and we didn't even really know what brain cancer was until my dad was diagnosed with it. So then I started trying to give my dad some hope, and I was researching survivor stories, and I came across Greg, who was a survivor of 10 years, and I contacted Greg, and Greg got back to me right away. I mean, he always answered any kind of questions that I had very promptly, and fortunately he was able to come out to San Diego in February and meet with my dad, and he gave my dad a lot of hope, which my dad needed at the time. It did get him through at least his, the original medication that they put him on, and then any kind of questions that we had with my dad, I always went to Greg, and Greg was instantly, he would just meet with us or talk to me right away, respond to questions, everything we had a question for, he would get back to us way better. But way sooner than the doctors would, which was really good. And then my dad had he started acting a little bit different, I'd say in August, September, probably September of this year. He started having some issues again, and I got a hold of Greg, and Greg was like, he definitely needs another MRI. It's not right, the things that were going on. And even though the doctors kept coming back saying stable, it wasn't stable. And my dad actually just passed January 4th of this year. It was a long battle, not a very long battle, but it was definitely hard, and it was definitely nice to have Greg that was there to answer any questions and be there for us, because he was definitely there more than the medical team was.
I had met Justin Baker through through high school, actually, and got to know him more through my sister. And ever since then, we were so alike in so many ways. We talked all the time, we hung out a lot, and he was just a good guy. He was always willing to help anybody. He was always positive. He would do anything for anybody. When he got this diagnosis, it was shocking for everyone, because how can somebody so good with such a big heart get essentially a death sentence?
I met Justin when Bob and I first started dating. When Justin got diagnosed, it was in April of 2011. I remember them finding the tumor and them telling us about it, and then the day he had an operation for biopsy. I think we were all pretty certain that this wasn't going to be a good outcome, but we knew that we were still hopeful.
My sister started doing some research as far as anyone who knew about glioblastoma, and she reached out to Greg's mission on Facebook, and just so happens Greg was local, and he was a survivor of this. So we started talking with Greg, and started to give us hope. If anyone was going to beat it, it was going to be him, and none of us had any doubt. Especially after we met Greg, seeing a survivor helped all of us out a lot, and really helped Justin too.
Greg started coming into the picture when Justin was in his coma, and he was an amazing support for all of us. Justin's family was there, and his friends were there, and it was just like a big family, and Greg was there for everybody to answer questions, to help us through a difficult time, to just his presence and knowing that there's somebody here in front of us that has survived this, that Justin doesn't have to be just another statistic.
And that's actually the first time that he had met Greg after he woke up. Greg traveled from Iowa City to Cedar Rapids just to be there for us, basically the whole family, because we see our friend basically not sure what was going to happen. And I remember Greg telling us, treat the patient, not the diagnosis. And he ended up having to stay in the hospital for quite a few months because he couldn't walk. He had to do a bunch of rehab, and Greg was there through all of it, just right there by his side, positive motivation.
He was given 2 more years when the doctors originally said a few weeks, maybe a few months, which was amazing. And Greg was there every step of the way, helping him find treatment options, teaching him about advocacy and what he needed to do for himself to not only push through emotionally, but even just navigating the systems of welfare and benefits that he could receive due to his diagnosis.
When Justin got diagnosed, there were several different treatment options that he could have. One treatment in particular that he could have had was offered up in Minnesota, and due to Justin's circumstances, he was unable to get that treatment for insurance purposes.
Then Justin, did everything he could to show his support for for Greg's mission, for his advocacy, because he knew that this is what people needed, and if things are going to get done and changed, then this is how it's going to happen.
My mother was diagnosed, Judy Lindblom, in 2007. We noticed, she noticed that some memory lapses. One story that she told me, she was at a card club with actually my mother-in-law and some of her good friends, and she was letting them know of the birth of our second daughter, Aubrey, and they asked what her middle name was. And my mom had trouble, she couldn't remember. That was the first time she remembered it. She had told me that she started wondering what was going on.
And January 15, 2007, right after lunch, I heard my cell phone beep and I had a message. So I checked it and it was my sister saying, "You need to come home, we think Mom has had a stroke." We get to Marshalltown and we're at the clinic and they do a scan and they think it's a benign tumor, everything's going to be fine. That's why she was having some memory loss. She kind of wrecked the car backing into a dumpster, hadn't told any of us that, and Dad hadn't either. So from then we planned to have surgery. We sat in the waiting room for, seemed like forever, probably, I think it was close to 9 hours, and my brothers and my sister and Dad and I decided this is getting a little long, we were getting a little worried. The nurses and everybody joked because the entire waiting room was our family. And doctor called us in the room and he goes to tell us that he was really sorry, but it was a stage 4 GBM. And he didn't know what the final prognosis was, but he thought possibly 9 months.
When the diagnosis came, it was a difficult moment. Sitting in the room, putting myself there now again. The reality is that it was exactly what we thought it was, having Greg after the fact is still a blessing. Having opportunities to know that what Greg has done and what he can do for people, no matter what the diagnosis and the end result ends up being. He is someone that provides tremendous insight as to what the doctors might be thinking.
Greg, after meeting him as a friend of my brother's, I would have welcomed and I think even been more comforted knowing that there was somebody as a resource that was living what our mom lived. So even though not every family has that support that we have, we are extremely lucky to be as close as that we are, and that was due to how our mother raised us. But thinking back, could Mom have had maybe a treatment that would have saved her? We're thankful Greg is here, but I always think, what if? We all know that there's a reason things happen, and I really believe that the reason our family went through this, we are able to make a difference and support Greg and allow him to travel and be and talk to all of those families and those patients that need advice. Greg's mission has to continue. We hear more and more in the news and in the world about being diagnosed with stage 4 GBM. It would be great to find a cure, but I don't think that will ever happen. But to sustain life is our goal, and to make whatever life we have as comfortable and comforting to the family and to the patient. That's what Greg's mission's goal is. Our mom served a purpose, and she has led Kevin and I to help Greg's mission, to help his purpose to continue and help others.
My husband was diagnosed with glioblastoma in June of 2011. He was training to run a marathon, and half of his body went numb on one of his runs. And so we knew it was time to get him into the doctor. On a Sunday, we went for an MRI. It showed he had a brain lesion, and he was admitted to the hospital that day. He had surgery the following Tuesday, which revealed that he had glioblastoma. Ted reached out on Facebook to Greg, and Greg gave him a tremendous amount of hope that it's something that you could survive and you could have a good life surviving with it. So Ted started living every single day for what it was. We were extremely lucky in that we had an incredible team of doctors that were supportive, and that when a treatment didn't work, we moved quickly on to the next one. So we started to get involved in UCSD and the Morse Cancer Center there, and as part of that, we found out that Greg was going to come and do a talk in April of 2013. So we signed up to go finally meet Greg in person. We found him to be extremely inspirational, friendly, and open. So we had dinner with him while he was in San Diego, and he came to visit again last year while Ted was still doing well. And we got a chance to see him and catch up with him, and he had people that he was doing counseling with in between our day trips, which were very, very good for Ted. I haven't seen him that happy in a long time. I think it was super good for him to have a friend who understood what he was going through. And that friend's been Greg. We lost Ted in September of 2014, and Greg was with us through that part of the journey. He was there while I was in the hospital, sending text messages back and forth, checking on Ted and checking on me, and he's just been fantastic, and I can't thank him enough for all that he did for us and continues to do for me. Greg was instrumental in helping Ted understand what laid ahead for him after his diagnosis. Knowing what was coming helped take some of the fear out of what we were experiencing, and that was just priceless.